After the delivery, my wealthy father wanted to surprise me and came to the hospital unannounced. But as soon as he saw the simple clothes and supplies I had prepared for the baby, he asked me directly, "Honey, wasn't the $5,000 I've been sending you every month enough?" I was so stunned I thought my father had to be joking. I replied, "Dad, I've been managing with my own savings and my freelance work." My answer left him in shock. His face turned beet red. And just then, my husband and mother-in-law walked into the room. I never could have imagined what was about to happen. The smell of antiseptic and the stale recycled air were the first sensations that greeted Chloe as she woke up. She opened her eyes slowly. The room felt strange, yet it also brought a sense of relief. The pain throughout her body, especially in her lower abdomen, was still sharp. However, that suffering was replaced by an immense peace when she turned her head to the side. Inside a simple, clear plastic bassinet lay a tiny creature still pink and wrinkled, her son. Tears of emotion welled up again. She caressed his small cheek with the tip of her index finger. She felt that all the pain of the long hours of labor had been more than rewarded. Chloe adjusted the slightly crooked hospital gown on her shoulders. She had chosen a shared three-person room in this public city hospital, not for lack of options, but because it was the most sensible decision for her and her husband Michael's financial situation. The room had 4 beds, although at the moment only hers and one in the corner were occupied. A ceiling fan rotated slowly, emitting a monotonous whirring sound, but it was enough to mitigate the stuffy. She looked at her baby again. A light blue wool blanket bought at a flea market a few months ago wrapped his tiny body. Chloe smiled. She remembered how her mother-in-law, Karen, had scoffed when she showed it to her. "Chloe, why are you buying this cheap junk? It will irritate the baby's skin. You're so cheap. How can you be so stingy with your own son?" Chloe's heart sank. Stingy, she was just trying to be realistic. Her husband Michael had a simple office job at a private company. His salary barely stretched to cover their daily expenses in a major city. To pay for the delivery and buy the baby's things, Chloe had worked tirelessly. From the 6th month of her pregnancy, she began taking on freelance graphic design projects. She worked late into the night often, until her back was stiff and her eyes burned. She saved every penny. She suppressed cravings for expensive food. She held back her envy when her friends showed off new purses or clothes all for her son. She wanted to prove to herself and to Karen that she could be a good mother without being a burden on her husband. Chloe sighed. Her husband was a good man but far too submissive to his mother. Whenever Chloe complained about Karen's attitude, Michael would just say, "Be patient, honey. That's just how mom is. She's old-fashioned. You have to understand her." Michael never defended her, and when it came to money, he always handed his paycheck over to Karen to manage. Chloe was only given a small amount for groceries and daily expenses, which was often not enough. "I'm going to have to take on more work, Michael," she had told him one day. Michael just nodded. "Sure, if you can handle it, go for it. But don't forget your duties as a wife." Chloe was pulled from her thoughts when the room door creaked open. A nurse entered with a kind smile. "Awake already, Mrs. Miller, how are you feeling? Can you sit up?" she asked while checking the drip. "I'm fine, thank you. Still a little sore but so happy," Chloe replied in a hoarse voice. "The baby is very healthy and so handsome. 7 pounds, 2 ounces and 19 inches long. Perfect," the nurse praised her. "You've been strong, Mrs. Miller. You came to all your checkups and prepared everything by yourself. Your husband told me you handled all the admission paperwork yourself. You're very independent." Chloe just managed a faint smile. She had been forced to be. Just as she was about to ask when her husband would be back, the door opened again. This time it wasn't a nurse, nor was it Michael or Karen. Chloe's heart pounded. A tall, imposing figure dressed in an expensive tailored shirt stood in the doorway. His face with its firm and authoritative features looked somewhat tired, but his eyes were fixed on her. "Dad," Chloe whispered in disbelief. It was Mr. Sterling, her father. When he stepped inside, the small shared room suddenly seemed much more cramped. The scent of his expensive cologne overpowered the smell of disinfectant. Mr. Sterling was a tycoon, head of a massive business conglomerate. Chloe was his only daughter, but she had chosen a modest life by marrying Michael, a decision that was initially met with her father's staunch opposition. Their relationship had grown cold. Chloe was too proud to ask, and Mr. Sterling was too busy to inquire. "Dad, how did you know I was here?" Chloe asked, trying to sit up. The pain in her abdomen shot through her again. "I'm still your father, Chloe," Mr. Sterling said in his deep, gravelly voice. He didn't approach Chloe's bed, but instead directed his gaze toward the baby's bassinet. His assistant standing behind him held an enormous basket of gourmet fruits. Mr. Sterling walked to the bassinet and looked down at his first grandson. His hardened face began to soften. "It's a boy," he murmured. "Yes, Dad, he's your grandson," Chloe said with pride. Mr. Sterling extended a finger and touched the tiny hand peeking out from the blanket, but the smile that had formed on his face gradually faded. His eyes scanned the room, the iron bed with chipped paint, the whirring fan, and the light blue wool blanket swaddling his grandson. "You're in a room like this," his voice was flat. "Yes, Dad, it's a shared room. As long as it's clean, it's fine," Chloe replied, starting to feel uncomfortable. "And what is this blanket? Why is it so coarse?" he asked again, this time with more of an edge to his voice. I bought it at a flea market, Dad. It's good quality. I washed it well." Mr. Sterling fell silent, his face tensed. He stared at his daughter. His eyes held a restrained anger. "Chloe," he called her name, his voice low but firm. "I came without telling you. To give you a surprise. I thought you would be in a VIP suite. I thought you would be giving our grandson the best of everything. Dad, Mr. Sterling cut her off by raising a hand. "But what do I find? The baby's clothes are simple, the blanket is cheap, and your room is this." He took a deep breath. "Honey, wasn't the $5,000 I've been sending you every month enough?" Chloe's world seemed to stop. $5,000. Every month she let out a small nervous laugh. "Dad, what are you talking about? Are you joking?" "Joking, Mr. Sterling's voice rose an octave. "I never joke about money, especially not when it concerns my only daughter." Chloe's heart raced. She searched her father's eyes for any sign of a lie, but found only sincere fury. "Dad, you never sent me that money. I've covered all the expenses and my needs with my savings and the money I earned freelancing." A heavy silence fell. It seemed as if even the ceiling fan had stopped whirring. Mr. Sterling stared at her, his eyes wide. His face, previously pale with fatigue, was now flushed with rage. Now he understood why his daughter looked so thin and exhausted. Why his grandson was wrapped in a cheap blanket. "Freelance work, Mr. Sterling growled. "Your savings." Just then the room door opened again. Karen's shrill laughter was heard before she even entered. "Ha ha ha. Oh, Michael, you're too much. You can just buy me another designer bag later. Okay. As long as the color matches, I'm happy." Michael and Karen entered the room. Their laughter died in their throats. Their hands were loaded with shopping bags from luxury boutiques. Karen's eyes, which had been sparkling a second ago, were now frozen at the sight of Mr. Sterling, who stood like a god of wrath next to Chloe's bed. The silence that followed was deafening. Karen's cheerful laughter, which had carried down the hallway, still echoed in their ears, a stark contrast to the icy atmosphere in the room. Karen stood rigid in the doorway, her hands clutching several paper bags with famous brand logos. Beside her, Michael, Chloe's husband, looked like a deer caught in headlights. His face was ashen and the bags he was holding nearly slipped from his grasp. Chloe looked at them, then at the bags. Peeking out of one eye, Karen's was a red leather handbag that clearly cost several $1,000s. And then she looked at her baby's modest blanket. Something in her head began to throb painfully. Mr. Sterling didn't move. He simply fixed them with a gaze so piercing it seemed capable of skinning them alive. His anger was so thick it felt like a suffocating heat filling the small room. Karen was the first to break the silence. Her instinct to take control of the situation kicked in immediately. She quickly placed the bags on the floor outside the room and forced a smile. A smile so strained it looked like a grimace. Well, Mr. Sterling, what a surprise you're here already. You could have called. Oh, you finally come to meet your grandson. She greeted him in the sweetest voice she could muster, as if nothing was wrong. Michael also stammered, Yes, Mr. Sterling. Sorry, we just got back. We stepped out for a bite to eat. He quickly hid the bags he was carrying behind his back, a gesture as useless as it was ridiculous. Mr. Sterling didn't respond to their greetings. His gaze never left Michael and Karen's faces. A bite to eat, ha, he growled. From the looks of it, you ate at a luxury boutique. Karen immediately felt cornered but tried to play it off. Oh, not that. We just stopped for a moment to run an errand for a friend. We were on our way to the hospital cafeteria. Sir, Dad, what's wrong? What's going on? Chloe whispered. She was still confused. She didn't understand anything. She felt dizzy. What is all this, Dad, Mr. Sterling ignored Chloe and took a step forward. His imposing figure made Michael and Karen instinctively retreat. I'll ask you one more time, Mr. Sterling said in a low, dangerous voice. Michael, MRS. Miller, where is the $5,000 a month I was giving you for my daughter? This time, Chloe didn't laugh. Instead, the confusion in her eyes gradually morphed into horror. She looked at her husband, searching for an answer. Michael swallowed hard. A bit of sweat the size of a pea began to slide down his temple. He looked to his mother for help. Karen quickly stepped forward. Her fake friendliness had transformed into a faint expression of sorrow. She even placed a hand on her chest as if she were shocked. What money, Mr. Sterling? $5,000, my goodness, that's a fortune, she exclaimed. We have no idea what you're talking about. On the contrary, sir, we're the ones who had a hard time. A hard time, Mr. Sterling repeated. Yes, sir, Karen exclaimed, her tone now turning accusatory. It's because this, Chloe, is a spendthrift. You don't know your daughter's true colors. Since she married my Michael, you wouldn't believe the money she spends. The money Michael gives her is never enough. She's always asking for things. She says they're pregnancy cravings, but what a coincidence that all her cravings are for expensive things. Chloe felt the air leave her lungs. Karen, when have I ever asked you for anything expensive? She protested. Her voice was weak but trembled with indignation. I haven't asked for anything. Oh, don't play innocent, Chloe, Karen retorted sharply. You asked for those weird designer maternity clothes. You asked for food from expensive restaurants. My Michael was at his wit's end. We've had to tighten our belts to cover your whims. This was a colossal lie. Chloe remembered perfectly. She only had 3 sets of maternity clothes all bought from a discount store. And as for food, she had often gone hungry because Karen cooked just enough, saying they had to save money. Karen, that's a lie, Chloe exclaimed, her eyes filling with tears. When have I ever been wasteful? On the contrary, I've contributed to the household expenses with the money I earned from my freelance work. I bought all these baby things with my own money. You even called me cheap for buying a budget blanket. See, there it is. You did freelance work, didn't you? I bet you blew that money on your own selfish desires without giving your husband a single cent. Karen counterattacked, feeling she had the upper hand, seeing Chloe cry. Do you see, Mr. Sterling? You ask her a simple question and she starts crying. What a crybaby. Michael, look at your wife. Michael just kept his head down, not daring to look at Chloe and certainly not at his father-in-law. Chloe shook her head vehemently, tears streaming down her cheeks. Dad, it's not true. Please believe me. Mr. Sterling looked at his daughter crying in bed and then at Karen standing arrogantly, her face a mask of lies. His fury had reached its limit. Enough, he growled. His voice wasn't loud, but it made the room vibrate. Karen fell silent instantly. Mr. Sterling focused his attention on Michael. Michael, I'm not talking to your mother. I am speaking to you as my daughter's husband. Michael raised his head slightly, his lips trembling. Yes, sir. For 3 years of marriage, on the 1st of every month, I have transferred $5,000 to your bank account. I did it to your account on purpose, not Chloe's, because I thought that as the head of the family, you would manage that money for my daughter's happiness. Chloe felt as if her heart was being squeezed in a vice. $5,000 for 3 years, every month. She felt faint. It was an astronomical sum. I didn't tell Chloe on purpose, Mr. Sterling continued. I wanted my daughter to feel that her husband was taking good care of her, that she was living comfortably. But what do I see today, Mr. Sterling pointed at the baby's blanket. My daughter gives birth in a shared room and my grandson is wrapped in a cheap rag. Meanwhile, he pointed to the shopping bags outside the door. You two have just returned from a shopping spree. Mr. Sterling, it's a misunderstanding, Michael stammered. That money, we used it for. What did you use it for, Michael? Mr. Sterling pressed. For household expenses, sir. The mortgage, the car payment, the house. Mr. Sterling let out a sarcastic laugh. The house you live in is in your mother's name. And the car. Since when can a simple desk jockey like you afford a luxury car on monthly payments? Karen saw the situation was getting ugly. Well, it's our money too. Mr. Sterling, Michael's money also counts. It's normal for him to use it for his family, including his mother. So Mr. Sterling said, you took the money that was meant for my daughter and used it for your own benefit. Meanwhile, my pregnant daughter worked late into the night. Is that not so, Mr. Sterling? Michael excused himself. Chloe wanted to work. She said she was bored at home. Bored, Chloe repeated in a low voice. Her heart was shattered. I worked because the money you gave me was never enough, Michael. I worked because your mother wouldn't even give me enough to buy vitamins. The tension in the room thickened again. Mr. Sterling looked at his son-in-law with a murderous expression. Michael, I want no more excuses. He took his phone from the pocket of his expensive suit. Show me your bank account transactions right now. Michael froze. It was over. Sir, please not here. It's embarrassing, he whispered. Embarrassing, Mr. Sterling shouted. After deceiving my daughter for 3 years now, you talk to me about embarrassment. Show it to me now. My phone. It doesn't have good reception in the hospital, sir. Michael lied pathetically. He could barely hold the phone. Stop making excuses, or do you just want to rub your money in our faces, Mr. Sterling? Karen suddenly yelled. Do you think just because you have money, you can insult us like this? My Michael works too. We have our own money. We don't need yours. If you didn't need it, why did you use it, Mr. Sterling countered. Karen was speechless. Her face flushed with anger and humiliation. Mr. Sterling was unfazed. He looked at Michael. I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2. Michael trembled. He looked at his mother, then at Chloe, who was sobbing uncontrollably in the bed. He was caught between a rock and a hard place. Sir, please. I don't need to see your phone. Mr. Sterling interrupted him coldly. He dialed a number on his phone. Hello. Send me a complete statement of all monthly transfers to the account, in Michael Miller's name for the last 3 years, and a trace on all expenditures from that account. Now. Mr. Sterling hung up. He looked at Michael and Karen. You take me for a fool. I've always kept an eye on the flow of that money. I just wanted to hear you admit it from your own mouths, but you chose to lie. Michael and Karen collapsed onto the hard chairs in the waiting area. They knew the game was up. The silence in the room was dense, heavier than the stale hospital air. The ceiling fan continued its monotonous whir, and the only sound Chloe could hear was her own heart pounding in her ears. $180,000. That figure spun in her head like a top. $180,000. $5,000 a month for 3 years. Chloe looked at her father, then at Michael, with his head bowed and Karen pale as the wall. She tried to process this information to connect it to her life for the past 3 years. 3 years of struggle, of deprivation, of always feeling guilty for not having enough, for being a burden. Suddenly, fragments of memories surfaced, now tinged with a new painful meaning. She remembered when she was 4 months pregnant. It wasn't a luxurious craving. She just desperately wanted some organic mangoes from a gourmet market, a bit more expensive but perfectly ripe. She worked up the courage to ask Michael. As always, he passed the request to Karen, and Karen said, why buy something so expensive? There are plenty at the regular supermarket. Don't be so picky. The next day, Karen brought mangoes, but they were the overripe ones, sold at a steep discount. Eat these. Mangoes are mangoes, sir, her mother-in-law had said. Chloe had cried secretly in the bathroom while eating the sour, fibrous fruit, holding back nausea. Now she knew. The day she asked for $15 mangoes, $5,000 had been deposited into her husband's account. She remembered when she was 7 months pregnant. Her belly was huge and her back ached terribly, but she forced herself to keep up with her design work to meet deadlines. She would sit at the small dining table in front of her laptop until 3 a.m. The baby kicked constantly as if protesting. Michael came out of the bedroom not to comfort her but to get a glass of water. He saw her exhausted with deep dark circles under her eyes. What did he say? Don't forget to get up tomorrow morning. Make mom breakfast before I leave for work. Not a get some rest, not a let me help you. Michael let his pregnant wife work to the point of exhaustion, while his bank account held enough money to hire a dozen assistants. She remembered her visits to the OBGYN. The doctor prescribed a high-dose prenatal vitamin complex and calcium. The fetus was healthy, but the mother was suffering from malnutrition. MRS. Miller, you need to take this to have strength for the delivery, the doctor told her. Chloe saw the total price, $75. With the money Karen rationed out to her, she didn't have that much. She went home and showed it to Michael. Once again, it was Karen who responded. Are those vitamins so expensive? Doctors just want to make money. I didn't take any vitamins when I was pregnant with Michael and look how healthy he turned out. Just take the iron pills they give out for free at the clinic. Don't be so weak. That night, Chloe cried. She felt like a failure, like a bad mother. Even before her son was born, she felt she couldn't give him the best. In the end, she discreetly contacted a client and asked for more work in exchange for an advance. A week later, she bought the vitamins with her hard-earned money and had to lie to Karen, telling her a friend had given them to her. While she felt guilty for spending money on her own baby's health, they, her husband and mother-in-law, were enjoying a life of luxury. Chloe's tears fell silently. They were no longer tears of sadness. They were tears of rage, of regret, of realizing how incredibly naive she had been. Chloe, honey. Michael's trembling voice brought her out of her thoughts. He tried to take her hand. Chloe pulled it away sharply. Don't touch me, she growled. Pin Mr. Sterling's phone chimed, a notification. Emails and messages flooded in. His assistant had been fast. Mr. Sterling didn't need to open his laptop. The large screen of his phone showed him all the information he needed. His face remained calm, but his eyes burned. Michael. Mr. Sterling said, your bank statement is fascinating. Michael bowed his head even lower. Let's see. Mr. Sterling continued his voice, serene but lethal. Last month, a deposit of $5,000 from me on the 1st. On the 4th, a credit card payment at a high-end steakhouse, $300. Oh, that must have been a splendid dinner. Karen looked nervous. On the 7th, Mr. Sterling went on, a payment at a designer boutique, $2,500. He looked up from his phone directly at Karen. I assume this is the handbag you were boasting about at your social gatherings, the one you said Michael bought you with the sweat of his brow. Karen flinched. Sir, have you been spying on us? Spying isn't necessary, Mr. Sterling replied coldly. I merely protect my assets, and my daughter is my most precious asset, one you have abused. Mr. Sterling looked back at the screen, and 3 months ago, a deposit of $5,000. The following week, a down payment on a red sports sedan in Michael Miller's name. Chloe's eyes widened. A car. The red car you said was a company car, Michael. Michael stammered. It was a bonus, Chloe, a company bonus. A bonus, you say, Mr. Sterling let out a dry laugh. Your company doesn't give bonuses that generous, Michael. I know your exact salary, and I know your company's performance. This money here, he tapped the phone screen, is my daughter's money. That's enough. Karen suddenly stood up. She couldn't take it anymore. Her face, once pale, was now red with rage. So what? What does it matter? It's Michael's right. He's my son. It's normal for a son to take care of his mother, to give her gifts. To take care of his mother with money stolen from his wife, Mr. Sterling asked acidly. Who stole? Karen retorted fiercely. It's her husband's money. It's his right. Besides, you transferred it to Michael's account yourself, didn't you? So then it belongs to Michael, not Chloe. If it was really for her, why didn't you deposit it into her account? Because I trusted, Mr. Sterling growled. I trusted that a husband would shoulder his responsibility. I was wrong. Yes, you were wrong, Karen exclaimed, feeling victorious. So that money was rightfully ours. If we bought bags, cars, or renovated the house with it, that's our business. You have no right to interfere. Renovate the house, Chloe remembered. 2 months ago, their house had been completely renovated. The kitchen was expanded and a new air conditioning unit and a private bathroom were installed in Karen's room. Chloe had to sleep on the small living room couch for a month. Karen said she had won some money from a lucky lottery ticket. Chloe's heart shattered into a million pieces. She looked at her husband. Michael, is your mother is saying true? You believed it was your right. Michael didn't have the courage to answer. He could only cry, but his tears seemed fake. He wasn't crying for Chloe, but for himself. Suddenly, Michael fell to his knees, not before Chloe, but before Mr. Sterling. He crawled and tried to grab his father-in-law's feet. Sir, forgive me. I was wrong. It was my mother who forced me. Sir, I promise I'll change. I'll pay you back, but please don't get me fired. Please don't call the police. Chloe stared at him, stunned. Even at a moment like this, what Michael feared was losing his job and going to jail. Not losing his wife's trust, not remorse for having abandoned her and their son. Ping, Mr. Sterling's phone chimed again. It was a text message from his assistant. Mr. Sterling read it. His face hardened even more. He looked down at Michael kneeling on the floor. Get up, he ordered. Michael didn't move. I said, get up, Mr. Sterling shouted. Michael scrambled to his feet, terrified. Mr. Sterling glared at him. My assistant just sent me the asset tracking report. You were cleverer than I thought. You didn't just spend the money. You used it to buy property in your names. Michael and Karen froze. The red sedan is fully paid off and in Michael's name and the house you live in, Mr. Sterling looked at Karen. The mortgage was backed by the bank and you used the money I sent to pay off the renovation loan. You haven't just stolen, you laundered the money. Mr. Sterling turned away. He was no longer looking at his daughter's husband and mother-in-law. He looked at Chloe, who was sitting silently in bed, her eyes dry. Chloe, he called softly. I'll ask you one last time. After everything you heard, everything you discovered, do you want to stay with this man and in this marriage, Mr. Sterling's question hung in the air. The shared room was as silent as a tomb. All eyes were on Chloe. Michael looked at her with a pathetic, sweat-drenched expression. Karen glared at her, her face sharp with hatred. Chloe looked at her father. This man who had always seemed so cold and distant was now standing before her, her shield. And then she looked at the baby sleeping in his bassinet, an innocent being who had almost grown up in an environment filled with lies, a baby who deserved so much better. Chloe slowly shifted her gaze to Michael, her husband, the man she had loved, or at least thought she had loved, the man she had defended to her father 3 years ago, the man she had trusted to lead their family. Before Chloe could answer, Karen could no longer contain herself. Her patience had run out. The mask of a long-suffering mother-in-law had long since fallen away. Enough of this. Stop with the sad face, Karen yelled, pointing at Chloe. You think you can scare us? Yes, we used the money. So what is that wrong? It was money my son received from his father-in-law. It was about time. Michael tried to grab his mother's arm. Mom, stop, please. You shut up, Michael, Karen snapped. You're spineless, afraid of your wife and her father. Listen to me, Mr. Sterling. She now looked defiantly at Chloe's father. I was against Michael marrying your daughter from the start. I knew a rich girl would be a spoiled, useless brat who would just want to be waited on. And in the end, I was right. Mr. Sterling raised an eyebrow, letting the woman continue. We thought that by marrying a tycoon's daughter, our lives would be easier, that some of her wealth would rub off on us. But no. Chloe lived a lie, pretending to be independent, dressing in rags, eating whatever. I was embarrassed in front of the neighbors, my friends. My daughter-in-law married to the son of a businessman, and she looked like a beggar. People would think we didn't treat her well when the reality is she was a cheapskate. Karen, Chloe gasped. What, you're stingy? You saved until it was ridiculous. My grandson is about to be born and you buy him this cheap blanket. How was I supposed to face people? Karen was growing more and more agitated. So when you sent that money to Michael, I told my son, this is your reward, son. Your payment for putting up with this woman. And of course, we used it. We enjoyed it. We bought nice things so people would stop looking down on us, so I could brag at my gatherings that my son was a successful man, even if his wife looked homeless. Every word out of Karen's mouth was a dagger stabbing into Chloe's heart. Naive beggar, cheapskate, spoiled homeless. And you, Chloe, Karen pointed at her again, you're a fool. With a good husband like yours, an obedient man, why were you so insistent on working so much? For what? What were you going to do with all that money, $5,000 a month? A woman like you would have spent it all on cosmetics and clothes. It was better for me to have it. I bought gold. I invested in luxury handbags. That's an investment. Their value keeps going up much. Better than letting the money be wasted in your hands. The hate-filled monologue finally ended. Karen was panting her chest, heaving. She seemed satisfied to have spilled all her bile. A brief silence. Chloe's tears had dried. Her face was pale, but her eyes no longer showed sadness, only a void that was slowly turning into a cold burning flame. She ignored Karen. She didn't even look at her. She focused all her attention on Michael, her husband, who was trembling standing between her and his mother. Michael, Chloe called. Her voice was incredibly calm, almost emotionless. Michael jumped. He didn't expect Chloe to call him so calmly. Yes, honey. I'm only going to ask you one thing, Chloe said. I won't ask about the car or the house. Just one thing. Michael swallowed. What, Chloe? When I was 7 months pregnant, Chloe's voice was low but clear, and the doctor said I had malnutrition, and I asked you to buy me a pregnancy smoothie that cost $20. Your mother said there was no money. Michael began to tremble. I'm asking you, Michael. That day you knew your mother was lying, didn't you? Michael stared at the floor. He didn't dare look his wife in the eye. He remembered that day. After Chloe went to the bedroom, his mother had left. What smoothie, condensed milk will do just fine, she had said. And he, Michael, had simply remained silent. Answer me, Michael, Chloe insisted. Michael nodded very slowly, almost imperceptibly. Yes, he whispered. One more thing, Chloe said. When I was working until 3 a.m. in front of the laptop with a broken back and the baby kicking non-stop, you saw me, didn't you? Michael tried to make an excuse. You saw me, Chloe interrupted, repeating the question, and you knew that in your account there were hundreds of thousands of dollars that my father had sent for me. That's not a question, it's a statement. Michael could no longer dodge it. He knew Chloe didn't want an answer, just a confirmation. He bowed his head deeply. This time, his nod was clearer. Chloe's world crumbled, but from the rubble, she stood firm. She had all the answers she needed. 3 years of patience. 3 years of sacrifice. 3 years of love. It had all been for nothing. She took a deep breath. The pain from her stitches was nothing compared to the pain in her heart. Chloe lifted her head. She was no longer looking at Michael. She looked directly into her father's eyes. Dad, her voice was now firm and strong. I have my answer. Mr. Sterling looked at her, waiting. Get me and my son out of here, right now. Karen was stunned. What, you're leaving? I'm filing for divorce, Chloe continued. What? Michael shouted, finally showing an emotion that wasn't fear. Chloe, no. Please, it's a misunderstanding. I can't explain. It's all my mother's fault. I love you, Chloe. For our son's sake. Our son, Chloe let out a sarcastic, chilling laugh. The son you covered with a blanket you call cheap. The son you denied vitamins. The mother you let work to the point of exhaustion while you lived the high life. Don't you ever say my son's name again. How dare you, Chloe, Karen shrieked. Your father gives you a little pity and you already become arrogant. Get a divorce if you want. Do you think you can live without Michael, who's going to want a divorcee with a child? You'll come crawling back to us, begging for money. Chloe just gave a slight smile. Mrs. Miller. Mr. Sterling's voice was so cold. It could freeze fire. You picked the wrong enemy. Mr. Sterling wasted no time. He dialed a number on his phone. Hello, get my best team of lawyers ready right now. He looked directly at Michael and Karen. With full power of attorney, arrange for my daughter and grandson to be moved to the penthouse suite. File a divorce petition in the name of Chloe Sterling. Demands full custody. Mr. Sterling smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. And a claim for material and emotional damages. Reclaim the 18万美元 plus interest. Seize all assets in Michael and Karen Miller's names that were acquired with that money. I want them left with nothing. Now. The shared room seemed to shrink. The air previously stale now felt heavy, thick with poison. The orders Mr. Sterling had given over the phone were concise, clear and relentless. The echo of his words still rang in Michael and Karen's ears. What? Karen was the first to find. Her voice, though it sounded hoarse. Seize assets. The police. Mr. Sterling, you can't be serious. This is a family matter. Michael, meanwhile, looked as if his soul had been ripped out. His knees buckled. Sir, Mr. Sterling, please don't do this. He whimpered, trying to appeal to his compassion again. I'll work, sir. I'll pay it all back. I'll get divorced. I mean, just don't send me to jail, sir, please. Mr. Sterling didn't respond. He put his phone back in his suit pocket. His gaze was fixed on Chloe. Are you ready, honey? He asked gently as if the two panicking people in front of him were mere shadows. Chloe nodded. Her hands, which had been clutching the blanket, now slowly relaxed. Her decision was made. There were no more doubts. I'm ready, Dad. No, you're not leaving. Michael suddenly yelled. He lunged forward, trying to grab onto Chloe's bed. Chloe, listen to me. It's all my mother's fault. She poisoned my mind. I love you, Chloe, for our son. Before Michael's hand could touch the edge of the bed, his body was intercepted by Mr. Sterling's personal assistant, a burly man in a black suit, who had been standing silently by the door. The man moved with speed and efficiency, stopping Michael with a hand on his chest, his face impassive. Excuse me, sir. Keep your distance. Let go of me. That woman is my wife. Michael screamed. She's not your wife anymore, Mr. Sterling stated flatly. He then pressed the nurse call button next to Chloe's bed. I will not allow my daughter to remain for one more second in this hell you have created. The door opened. Not just a nurse came in, but also two hospital security guards and the floor supervisor, who had apparently already been alerted by Mr. Sterling's assistant. What's going on, Mr. Sterling? Why all the commotion in the room? The supervisor asked with a concerned face. I am the father of the patient, Chloe Miller, Mr. Sterling said calmly. His presence commanded respect. I am moving my daughter immediately, and I am asking you to remove these two people. He pointed at Michael and Karen from this room. They are disturbing the patient's peace. What, kick us out? This woman is my wife and this child is my son, Michael protested. We are his son-in-law and his mother-in-law, Karen added. The supervisor looked confused. Excuse me, Mr. Sterling, but as a matter of procedure, who handled my daughter's admission paperwork? Mr. Sterling interrupted her. Mrs. Miller herself, sir, a nurse replied after checking the records. Perfect, Mr. Sterling said. I'm taking over now. Move my daughter and grandson to the best VIP suite in this hospital. All expenses are on my account, and I want these two people, he pointed again at Michael and Karen, banned from coming anywhere near my daughter's room. VIP suite. Karen's eyes widened. Michael, your wife is getting away. Do something, you useless oaf. But Michael could do nothing. 2 security guards were already flanking him. At that moment, 3 more men entered the room. They weren't wearing hospital uniforms. They wore impeccable suits, far more expensive than the one Michael had worn at his wedding. They carried leather briefcases. Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling, said the man in the center. We are your legal counsel. Michael and Karen froze. This was real. It wasn't a bluff. The lawyer ignored the couple and addressed Mr. Sterling directly. All the documentation is ready, sir. The power of attorney, the draft of the divorce complaint, and the initial report for the police. Then the lawyer turned to Michael and Karen. His face was pleasant, but his eyes were cold as ice. Good afternoon, Mr. Miller, Mrs. Miller. I represent our client, Mr. Sterling, and soon-to-be client, Mrs. Chloe Miller. I don't want a divorce, Michael said, panicking. That choice is no longer yours, Mr. Miller, the lawyer replied calmly. You currently have 2 options. I recommend you listen carefully. As the lawyer spoke, hospital staff moved with brisk efficiency. A wheelchair for Chloe arrived. A new high-end bassinet with a soft cashmere blanket was brought in by a dedicated nurse. Chloe, with the nurse's help, sat up slowly and for the first time cradled her son with a sense of relief. The first option, the lawyer said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm. You signed these documents an acknowledgement of receiving and using the $180,000 a divorce settlement, the transfer of full custody to Mrs. Miller, and the transfer of ownership of a red sports sedan and a residential property as a first payment toward the return of said funds. What our house? No, Karen screamed. It's in my name. A house renovated and paid off with money. That was not yours. Mrs. Miller, the lawyer corrected her. If you cooperate and sign everything today, our client might, and I repeat, might have the clemency to not press criminal charges for misappropriation of funds and money laundering. Michael looked at his mother, terrified. Jail, the word echoed in his ears. And the second option, Michael whispered, his voice barely audible. The lawyer's smile vanished. The second option is that you refuse. We will file the civil lawsuit this afternoon and simultaneously file a criminal complaint with the police. The transfer receipts, the recording of your confession from a moment ago, he pointed to Mr. Sterling's phone, and your bank statements are more than sufficient. We guarantee you will not win. You will lose everything. And most importantly, you will spend a good amount of time behind bars. Choose. Karen trembled. Her face, once red with rage, was now ashen. Her arrogance had evaporated. Only fear remained. In the midst of the chaos, Chloe was already in the wheelchair holding her baby ready to leave. Mr. Sterling was by her side. His assistant pushed the chair. As they crossed the threshold, Michael made one last desperate move. He broke free from the guards and fell to his knees on the floor. Chloe, he cried out desperately. Honey, don't go. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'll kiss your feet. Please don't leave me. Chloe gestured for the assistant to stop. Michael looked at her with hope-filled eyes. Chloe, Chloe looked at her husband's face, the face she once loved, now bathed in crocodile tears. She felt nothing. No pity, no love, only exhaustion. Slowly, Chloe turned her gaze forward. "Let's go," she ordered the assistant in a low voice. The wheelchair started moving again, leaving Michael kneeling in the hallway, and Karen slumped in a chair, staring in shock at the stack of legal documents in the lawyer's hands. The elevator doors at the end of the hall opened. Chloe entered with her father without looking back. "Chloe," Michael's desperate scream was the last thing she heard before the elevator doors closed, carrying her toward her new life. The silence inside the spacious VIP elevator, which smelled of expensive cleaning products, was absolute. Only the soft hum of the machinery could be heard as they ascended. Chloe rested her head against the back of the wheelchair, closing her eyes for a moment. Her embrace around the small baby in her lap tightened. She could feel her son's tiny heart beating rhythmic and calm, a stark contrast to the storm she had just left behind. "Mr. Sterling stood beside her, a protective hand on the wheelchair's handle. He said nothing. He knew his daughter needed time. The elevator doors opened not to a normal hallway, but directly into a luxurious private floor on the top floor. This VIP suite was more like a five-star hotel, plush carpets, wood-paneled walls, and warm lighting. Another head nurse was already waiting. "Welcome, MRS. Miller, Mr. Sterling. The room is ready." They were LED into the room. Chloe gasped. It was enormous. It had a separate living area, a comfortable velvet sofa, and a state-of-the-art motorized patient bed. But what caught her eye most was the gigantic floor-to-ceiling window offering a panoramic view of the city. The evening sky was already beginning to be tinged with orange. In a corner of the room stood a beautiful, solid wood crib, perfectly stocked with premium baby items, all in their original packaging a world away from the plastic bassinet and the flea market blanket. "Rest, ma'am. I'll help you move the baby," the nurse said gently. Chloe hesitated for a moment. She didn't want to let go of her son. "Mr. Sterling seemed to understand. "Let me take him," he said. And carefully, Mr. Sterling took his first grandson from Chloe's arms. The man who had always seemed so cold looked a bit clumsy, but his eyes radiated immense tenderness. "Hello, little champion. Welcome to the family," he whispered to the baby. It was in that moment, seeing her father holding her son in that safe, luxurious room, that all the tension Chloe had suppressed for hours or perhaps years finally broke. Chloe's shoulders began to shake. A sob escaped her lips. Then another. She covered her face with her hands and her crying turned into a torrent. She wept. It wasn't the cry of pain or rage from the other room. It was a cry of relief, a cry that washed away all the wounds, all the lies, all the humiliations she had swallowed for the past 3 years. She cried for her own foolishness. She cried for her lost years. And she cried for the fact that she was finally free. Mr. Sterling quickly handed the baby to the nurse and knelt beside Chloe's wheelchair. He hugged his daughter tightly. "Cry, honey. Let it all out. It's over now. It's all over. Dad, I'm sorry." Chloe sobbed against her father's shoulder. "I was so stupid." "SHH, Mr. Sterling interrupted her. "You're not stupid. You're just too kind. And they took advantage of your kindness. From now on, no one will ever hurt you again. I promise you that." Meanwhile, in the shared room, on the floor below, the scene was very different. Michael's desperate cries in the hallway didn't stop the lawyers. They re-entered the room where Karen was still sitting rigidly. Michael staggered in after them. His walk was weak. His eyes were empty. "Well," the lead lawyer said, placing the stack of documents and a pen on the table in front of Karen. The time for negotiation is over. It's time to decide. Jail or a signature? Karen looked at the papers. The first page clearly read, Acknowledgement of Debt and Asset Transfer. Her eyes widened at the figure of $180,000. This is robbery, she growled. This is justice, MRS. Miller, the lawyer replied coldly. Consider it a discount. If we take this to trial, the amount could triple with bank interest and emotional damages, not to mention our fees, which you would also be responsible for. Plus the bonus of a prison sentence. Karen's hands were shaking. She looked at Michael. Michael, look at this. We're going to be on the street. Michael didn't respond. He just stared blankly at the wall. His world had already collapsed. His car, supposedly from his company, he was sure Mr. Sterling would take that too. And now his house. Mom, Michael whispered, clinging to the last thread of sanity he had left. Sign it. What, you're giving up that easily? That house is from your father's side of the family. A house we can't live in if we're in jail, Mom. Michael finally snapped, losing his temper. Haven't you heard the word jail? I don't want to go to jail. And this is all your fault. Your greed. My fault, Karen shot back. Don't make me laugh. You enjoyed it too. You drove that car. You loved being called a successful man. And now you blame me, you ungrateful son. Enough. The lawyer's voice cut through their fight. We are not paid to watch family dramas. Either you sign or I call the police right now. He took out his phone. Karen looked at the phone, then at the stack of papers. With a trembling hand, she grabbed the pen. Where? She growled. The lawyer pointed to where she needed to sign on each of the sticky tabs. Karen signed with such rage, she nearly tore the paper. When she finished, she threw the pen on the table. Mr. Miller, your turn, the lawyer said. Michael signed like an automaton without resistance. His signature was almost illegible. Excellent, the lawyer said, collecting the documents. One more thing. He held out his hand. The keys to the car and the house. You have 24 hours to vacate the property. Our team will be there tomorrow afternoon to take possession. Michael reluctantly searched his pockets and handed over the key fob for the red sedan. And the keys to the house that had been his pride. After the lawyers left, Michael and Karen were alone in the room. Karen, who had seemed so strong just a moment ago, suddenly collapsed. Her legs gave way. She fell to the floor and burst into tears. It's all over. Our money, our house. Oh, Michael, where are we going to live? Michael didn't answer. He sat on a chair, staring in shock at the luxury brand shopping bags they had just brought in. They now lay on the floor, ironic and pathetic. In the penthouse suite of the hospital, Chloe had just finished breastfeeding her son for the first time in peace. Her old phone, with its slightly cracked screen, rested on the nightstand. Suddenly it vibrated. Michael's name appeared on the screen. A call. The vibration stopped and then text message notifications appeared. 1, 2, 10. Honey, please pick up. I was wrong. Mom fainted. Chloe, please, I have nothing left. You're being too cruel. We can start over, honey. I promise. Chloe's friend, Anna, who had just arrived after getting a call from Mr. Sterling, saw the string of messages. Oh my God, Chloe, this guy has no shame, Anna growled. She looked at her friend. Are you going to answer him? Chloe looked at the phone screen. Michael's pitiful face flashed in her mind, but it was quickly replaced by the image of Karen's mocking face. Of herself working until 凌晨3点. Of that cheap blanket. With a steady hand, Chloe picked up the phone. Anna thought she was going to answer, but Chloe held down the power button and selected the power off option. The screen went black. There is no us anymore, Chloe whispered to herself. She looked at Anna and for the first time in a long time, she genuinely smiled. Now it's just my son and me. The tranquility of the VIP suite was a luxury Chloe had almost forgotten. Over the next 2 days, she recovered not just physically, but mentally, surrounded by patient nurses, comfortable facilities, and most importantly, security. Mr. Sterling never strayed far. He temporarily moved his office into the suite's living room, managing his multi-million-dollar businesses while stealing glances at his first grandson. Her friend Anna became her emotional shield, visiting daily, bringing her favorite foods, even though the hospital's was already excellent, and most importantly, making her laugh. So, Anna said on the third day while peeling an apple, "What are you going to name this handsome guy? Don't tell me that since his last name is Sterling, you're going to call him Mr. President from the get-go." Chloe laughed a genuine laugh. She hadn't let out in a long time. She looked at her son sleeping peacefully in his comfortable crib. "His name is Matthew," she whispered. "Matthew Sterling." "Matthew," Anna repeated, "a new beginning." "It suits you, Chloe. This is truly the dawn of your new life." "And Matthew," Chloe continued, "because he is the greatest gift in my life. He saved me." While Chloe was finding the light again in another part of the city, dark clouds were gathering over the house that had been her false stage for 3 years. Michael and Karen were living through the longest 24 hours of their lives. After the lawyers left, the house felt empty. Karen's explosive anger had turned into a terrifying, hysterical crying. "My house! Your father's inheritance, they've taken it from us, Michael. They've taken it," she screamed, beating her chest. "It was already mortgaged, Mom. We paid it off with Chloe's money," Michael replied hoarsely. He didn't care anymore. He just wanted it all to be over. His mind was blank. He had been fired. A single text message from Mr. Sterling to his company's HR department, and within minutes, his contract was terminated without severance, with a note in his file for a serious ethical breach. "We have to move, Mom. Now." "Move where?" Karen shrieked. "Under a bridge. You have no money. I don't either. My credit cards are all maxed out. I'm sure it was that old man." Michael didn't tell his mother that he still had a small stash of cash he had managed to squirrel away from the office, money he had hidden even from her. It was his only hope. They began to pack in a terrible atmosphere. Karen wasn't packing. She was busy stuffing the gold jewelry she had bought with Chloe's money inside her purse and wrapping her designer bags, few of which were authentic, in old cloth bags, hoping the seizure team wouldn't notice. Michael, on the other hand, packed his clothes into a single large suitcase. He took one last look at the red sedan in the garage. Its shine seemed to mock his misfortune. The next day at noon, sharp, the doorbell rang. It wasn't the lawyer. It was worse. 3 burly men accompanied by a member of the legal team and a locksmith. "Time's up, Mr. Miller, MRS. Miller," one of the legal team members said in a flat voice. Karen tried one last act of defiance. She ran to the door and started yelling at the neighbors. "Help! Help! They're unjustly kicking us out. Rich people are trying to steal our house. Help!" Several curious neighbors came out, but the legal team was prepared. They pulled out a copy of the court order and the document signed by Karen the day before. This woman voluntarily signed an asset transfer as compensation for a case of misappropriation. "Everything is legal. Please do not get involved in legal matters." The neighbors' faces, previously compassionate, turned wary. Misappropriation. The word resonated. They immediately began to whisper. Seeing her resistance was futile, Karen deflated. Collect your things and leave, please. We are going to change the lock on this house, the employee said. Under the gaze of dozens of whispering neighbors, Michael walked out, dragging his suitcase. Karen followed, carrying a bulging cloth bag covering her face, with the edge of a handkerchief to hide her shame. Wait a minute, Michael yelled. The legal team employee stopped. The red sedan. We could use it to carry the suitcases. We'll return it later. The man from the legal team looked at him as if he were dust. Mr. Miller, that car has not been yours since yesterday. It is a seized asset. Leave, he pointed to the main street. Michael bowed his head, walked to the end of the street, and hailed an old taxi. He put the suitcase in and helped his still-crying mother get in. Where are we going, Michael? Karen sobbed inside the cab. To a motel by the train tracks, Michael replied in a low voice. It's the only thing I can afford with what we have left. As the taxi drove away, the locksmith began his work. The sound of the drill breaking the old lock was desolate. Click. The door closed. The new lock was in place. The chapter of their luxurious life was officially over. Almost at the same time in the VIP lobby of the hospital, Anna received a message on her phone. She showed it to Chloe, who was elegantly dressed in a simple but chic dress her father had given her. The message was short. Asset 1 residence and Asset 2 vehicle secured. Clients Michael and Karen Miller have cooperated. Chloe read the message. There was no triumphant smile, no laugh of satisfaction, just a long, deep sigh. She closed her eyes for a moment. One last tear rolled down her cheek, a tear that washed away the last vestiges of the past. It's over, Chloe, Anna whispered, taking her hand. Chloe nodded. Yes, it's over. Mr. Sterling came out of the administration office, putting his platinum credit card back in his pocket. All settled. Let's go home, honey. A nurse brought Matthew, wrapped in a soft cashmere blanket. Chloe stood up from the wheelchair. She was still a little sore, but she refused to be pushed. She walked on her own, took Matthew firmly, and left the hospital through the gleaming lobby doors. Outside, a luxurious black sedan with a private driver was waiting. She got into the car, leaving behind the smell of disinfectant and a painful past. She didn't look back. The ride home felt surreal for Chloe. The luxury car glided silently through the city streets. Outside was traffic and dust, but inside she and Matthew were enveloped in a cool, quiet luxury. She sat in the back seat with Anna, while Mr. Sterling in the passenger seat was busy with business calls. It was the first time she had seen the outside world. After a week trapped in drama, but she didn't feel like she was going home. She didn't know which home she was supposed to return to. Michael's house was no longer hers, and where was her father taking her? The car didn't head towards her father's lavish suburban estate that she knew from childhood. Instead, it turned towards the financial district and stopped in the lobby of an imposing skyscraper. Dad, where are we going? Chloe asked uneasy. Home, Mr. Sterling replied briefly with a faint smile. They took a private elevator directly to the top floor, the 50th floor. The elevator doors opened, and what greeted them was not an office lobby, but the stunning living room of a penthouse apartment. The walls were almost entirely glass, offering a 360-degree view of the city. The floors were imported marble. The furniture was minimalist but looked incredibly expensive. Oh my God, Dad, where are we? Chloe was stunned. In your home. You're in Matthew's home, Mr. Sterling said. He took Matthew from Chloe's arms. My assistant has been preparing it since yesterday. Welcome home, honey. A middle-aged woman in a uniform greeted them. Good afternoon, Miss Chloe. I'm Mrs. Evans. I am Matthew's nanny, and this is Miss Jung, your personal postpartum nurse. Chloe was even more confused. Nanny, personal nurse. Mr. Sterling led her on a tour of the apartment. There were 3 bedrooms. The master was larger than the entire apartment she had lived in. There was a guest room and another that had been converted into the most luxurious baby nursery she had ever seen. The crib was solid wood. There was a closet full of imported educational toys and designer baby clothes and a climate-controlled air system. Anna whistled softly. Chloe, this is insane. It's a palace. That night after Anna left and Matthew was asleep in his luxurious crib, Chloe couldn't sleep. She stood in front of the enormous window, watching the twinkling city lights. She should be happy. She was free. She was wealthy. She was safe. But her heart was restless. She felt small. She felt like she had just moved from one prison to another. Before the cramped prison of Michael and Karen, now the golden cage of her father, she had done nothing to deserve this. She was just her father's daughter. The next morning, after a breakfast prepared by her father's personal chef, Chloe went to her father's office in the penthouse. Dad, she called softly. Mr. Sterling looked up from a stack of papers. Yes, honey. Do you need something? You don't like the food? No, Dad. Chloe took a deep breath. Thank you. Thank you for everything, for Matthew, for this place. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, Mr. Sterling said gently. This is all your right, one that is long overdue. But I can't live like this, Dad, Chloe said. Mr. Sterling's brow furrowed. What do you mean you can't live like this? Like this? Being waited on, being pitied, being a burden on you again. I'm not a little girl anymore, Dad. I'm a mother. Chloe looked her father directly in the eye. I don't want to be a parasite. Mr. Sterling's face, previously soft, hardened. Parasite? What do you mean? I was a parasite in Michael and Karen's house, even though I worked. And now I feel like I'm a parasite here. I don't want to live off your pity, Chloe said firmly. I want to stand on my own 2 feet. Mr. Sterling was silent. He looked at his daughter, searching for hesitation in her eyes. But what he found was the same spark he had, the spark of a fighter. Slowly, a smile formed on Mr. Sterling's lips, a smile of genuine pride. And what's your plan? Chloe's heart raced. This was the moment. I want to start my own business. What kind of business? I'm a graphic designer, but I'm also a mother, Chloe began to explain. Dad, look at all these baby items you bought me. They're luxurious. They're great, but they must cost a fortune. Not every mother can afford them. I want to create my own brand of premium quality. Baby items with beautiful design, but at a reasonable price. She paused and continued. And clothes, stylish clothes for mothers. I know what it feels like to spend all day in old clothes. I know how hard it is to find nursing clothes that are comfortable, stylish and practical. I want to create a line of modern fashion for mothers like me. Clothes that make them feel beautiful and respected, even when they're busy taking care of their children. Mr. Sterling listened intently. His face showed no expression. I have the designs, Chloe said nervously. She took out the tablet her father had given her and opened her design portfolio folder. I can do this. I know I can. I just need the capital. When Chloe finished, Mr. Sterling leaned back in his chair. All right, it's a good plan. The market for mothers and babies never dies. Do you agree, Dad? Chloe asked, hopefully. Of course, Mr. Sterling said. I'll give you the capital. Chloe's eyes sparkled. But, her father continued, not as a gift. I will give it to you. As a business loan. Prepare a proper business plan. Calculate the production costs, marketing, expected profits. Present it to me. And if it's viable, I will transfer the funds. Chloe's face, already glowing, lit up even more. This was what she wanted. Not a gift, not pity, but a challenge. Trust. I'll prepare the business plan right away, Dad. Right now. Good. Bring Anna in. Make her your manager. She's a smart, loyal girl. I'll give you access to my company's branding team for advice. Mr. Sterling stood up. That's my girl. Almost at the same time in a seedy motel by the train tracks, Michael woke up. The smell of sewage and the roar of a passing train jolted his senses. Karen was snoring on a mat beside him. There was only an old, noisy fan spinning. Michael picked up his phone. No messages, no calls. He opened the banking app. Remaining balance, 300美元. Enough to pay this month's rent for the motel and for cheap food. There was an email notification from his old company's HR department, a formal termination letter. He was now officially unemployed with a bad record. Michael threw the phone onto the thin mattress. He stared at the cobweb-filled ceiling. He had nothing left. Back in the penthouse, Chloe was on a video call with Anna. Anna, do you want to be the CEO of our company? Chloe shouted excitedly. What CEO of what company? You just gave birth, Chloe. Anna laughed from the other side. Of our company, I'm serious. My dad is going to give us the capital. We're going to create our brand, Chloe Apparel. Anna was silent. Then she grinned from ear to ear, ready for the job director. Chloe laughed, hung up, and looked at Matthew sleeping in his luxurious crib. We're going to get started, son, she whispered. She was no longer the weak Chloe. She was Chloe's sterling mother and future entrepreneur. 6 months passed. For Chloe, they were 6 months of a blur filled with diapers, meetings, business plans, sleepless nights for Matthew, and sleepless nights designing. For Michael and Karen, they were 6 months of a slow descent into hell. The motel room Michael had rented with his remaining cash was a 12 box by the train tracks. There was no air conditioning. A small window, when opened, let in the stench of a clogged sewer. The thin plywood walls let them hear every conversation, every fight, every sigh from the next room. Every 30 minutes, day and night, a train would pass, shaking the entire building. The woman who was once the queen of social gatherings, Karen, was now a shadow of her former self. Her gold jewelry hidden in her purse was sold off one by one for food. Accustomed to being served, she now had to use a shared bathroom at the end of the hall and do laundry by hand. That day, she sat in front of her room door next to the smelly sewer drain and began scrubbing Michael's sweaty clothes in a bucket with cheap detergent. Her hands, once soft, were now rough and sore. The soapy water stung. The stench made her stomach turn. A neighbor, a woman who ran a food stall, stopped by. Doing laundry, MRS. Miller, that's strange. You always took it to the laundromat. Karen's face flashed. Just getting some exercise, she lied. The neighbor laughed. Exercise? Well, you sure look miserable. Hey, you need to scrub your husband's work clothes. With a brush, you know, like this. Otherwise the grime won't come out. She tossed her an old scrub brush. Karen felt humiliated to her core. Tears fell into the dirty water. She hated this. She hated the smell. She hated the neighbor. She hated Michael. And most of all, she hated Chloe and her father. In a wholesale market, Michael was loading sacks of potatoes. The man who was once a clean shirt office worker was now a warehouse loader in an old torn t-shirt. His body, once well cared for, was now thin and sunburned. Blacklisted from all companies, the only job he could find was this one. He was paid daily $2 for every sack he moved from the truck to the stall. He worked from dawn. His back ached. His hands were full of blisters. Hey, Michael, move faster. It's pathetic how long it takes a big guy like you to move one sack, the foreman yelled at him. Michael could only nod and quicken his pace. At the end of the afternoon, he received his pay, $75 in wrinkled bills that smelled of fish, enough to buy rice and instant noodles. In the past, $75 barely paid for 3 hours of parking at the mall. He walked home to save the bus fare. He found his mother sitting in the dark. Their electricity had been cut off. How much did you bring? Karen asked in a hoarse voice. Michael threw the bills on the mat. $75. Karen's eyes glinted with disdain. That's it. What have you been doing? All day. That's not even enough for decent food. Yes, it is, Mom. If we save. If you stop asking me to buy you scented fabric softener. Michael exploded. Fed up. Do you think it's easy to make money? My back is broken and my hands are ruined. And what do you do at home? Sit and complain. I did the laundry, Karen screamed, and I put up with the neighbors' humiliations. Me, Karen Miller, humiliated by a food vendor. And it's all your fault. My fault. Michael let out a bitter laugh. Whose fault was it? Mom, who was the greedy one who said this is your reward? Son, who said Chloe was a stupid cheapskate? Karen was silent. You, Michael yelled, pointing at her. If you hadn't been so greedy, if we had given Chloe even $500 out of the $5,000, she would have been happy. And we would still have had $4,500 a month. We could still be living comfortably, but you wanted it all. Greed. That's your disease. Slap, a sharp sound echoed in the room. Karen had hit him with all her might. Ungrateful son, she panted. You blame your mother. It's all because you're spineless. You couldn't control your wife. If you had been tougher on her from the beginning, Chloe wouldn't have dared. Michael touched his burning cheek. Something inside him broke. Spineless, he repeated. You made me this way. I didn't want to go to jail. And now I have nothing. They yelled. They insulted. They blamed each other. Their voices mixed with the roar of the train. There was no longer love between mother and son, only two desperate beings trapped in the karma they had created for themselves. Tired of fighting, they fell silent. Their stomachs growled. Michael prepared 2 packs of instant noodles in an old pot. No egg, no vegetables, just noodles and the powder packet. They ate in silence. Suddenly, their attention was drawn to the only entertainment in the room, an old 14-inch tube TV they had bought for $20. The local news was on, with a segment on young entrepreneurs. And our next inspiring figure is Ms. Chloe Sterling, the anchorwoman said. Michael and Karen froze their spoons in midair. On the screen appeared Chloe's face. She looked different. Still beautiful, but now she radiated a different aura. She was wearing an elegant blouse and a matching dusty rose scarf. She was standing in front of a large, luxurious store with a big sign that read, Chloe Apparel. Yes, thank you. Chloe's voice sounded clear and confident on the TV. Chloe Apparel was born from my dream to offer comfortable, elegant, and stylish clothing for young mothers. The camera showed the inside of the store crowded, with high society clients fighting over the clothes and premium baby items, and to celebrate the opening of our first store. Chloe continued smiling at the camera. We will be donating 10% of this month's profits to a local orphanage. Crash! Karen had thrown her noodle bowl at the old TV. The screen flickered and went dark. Shards of ceramic and noodle broth scattered across the shameless. Karen screamed her voice again, overpowering the noise of the train. She's showing off over our suffering, that bitch. Michael didn't move. He stared at the now black TV screen. In his reflection, he saw his own face, Haggard, thin, defeated, completely defeated. A year had passed since that day in the hospital. For those who build dreams, time flies. The once strange penthouse had become a warm home for Chloe and Matthew. Under the tutelage of Mr. Sterling, a strict but fair business mentor, Chloe Apparel grew at a dizzying pace. Chloe's business plan had been brilliant. She wasn't just selling clothes. She was selling a story, a community. She built a brand image that understood young mothers. The quality was premium, but the prices remained accessible to the middle class. The result was explosive. In 1 year, Chloe Apparel opened stores in 5 luxury malls and established a production workshop that employed dozens of local seamstresses. Today was a special day, Matthew's first birthday, and the first anniversary of Chloe Apparel. But the celebration didn't take place in a luxury hotel. True to her promise, Chloe celebrated it elsewhere, a humble but clean orphanage on the outskirts of the city. The orphanage's courtyard was decorated with balloons. Dozens of orphan children sat neatly, their eyes shining at the sight of gift boxes and a huge birthday cake. Matthew, now crawling, laughed happily in his grandfather's lap. Mr. Sterling. Chloe stepped onto a small stage dressed in a simple yet elegant white dress from her latest collection. Her face was serene and radiant. "Hello, everyone," she said in a soft voice. "Today, I am not here as the CEO of Chloe Apparel. I am here as Chloe, a mother and a daughter." She smiled at her father. "A year ago, my son Matthew was born, and his birth was a new dawn in my life. He taught me the meaning of strength. I want Matthew to learn that true happiness lies not in how much we possess, but in how much we can share. That's why in gratitude for his first birthday and for the first year of Chloe Apparel, my father and I have decided to fund the complete renovation of this orphanage and establish a foundation to guarantee the school expenses for all these children until they finish high school." A thunderous applause erupted. The orphanage director, a nun, was crying with emotion. The children shouted with joy. Mr. Sterling, holding Matthew, clapped the loudest. He looked at his daughter, his eyes misty. She had not only succeeded, she had become a great person. When Chloe came down from the stage and took Matthew, the phone Anna was holding vibrated. Anna looked at it and went over to Chloe. "Chloe," she whispered amidst the commotion. "There's news." Chloe turned. "What news, Anna?" Anna hesitated for a moment. "News about Karma." Chloe frowned. Anna showed her the phone screen. There were 2 messages. The first was from her father's legal team. "An arrest has been made at a small courier company. Michael M. has been detained for embezzling $2,000 in company funds. He is currently in police custody." $2000. Chloe smiled bitterly. It used to be hundreds of thousands. Now he had fallen for $2,000. With no skills other than fraud, Michael had tried to repeat his crime on a smaller, clumsier scale and got caught. Then Anna swiped to the second message received minutes before. From a security guard at their old apartment building. MS. Anna, there was a commotion in the complex. An old woman was caught stealing clothes from a clothesline in Building C. When they caught her, she started screaming hysterically. It was Mrs. Chloe's former mother-in-law, Karen Miller. She was gaunt and unrecognizable. The police took her away. The queen of social gatherings who boasted of luxury handbags. Now a thief of clothes from a line. Karma had arrived in the most ironic way possible. With Michael's arrest, Karen had lost her only source of income, however miserable. Hunger had overcome her pride. Chloe stared at the phone screen for a long time. "Are you okay, Chloe?" Anna asked. Chloe took a deep breath. She didn't feel a burst of triumph or a desire to celebrate. What she felt was relief, the release of a heavy burden she had unknowingly carried for a long time. The chapter was finally closed by fate. She locked the screen and handed the phone back to Anna. "I'm fine," she said. "Actually, I feel liberated." She turned around. There were no more shadows of the past in her eyes. In front of her, Matthew was laughing, reaching his little hands towards the birthday cake. Her father was smiling at him. "Come on, honey, it's time to blow out the candles, mister," Sterling said. Chloe nodded, went to her son, picked him up and kissed his chubby cheek. She stood next to her father, surrounded by the laughter of the orphanage children. "Happy birthday, my love," she whispered to Matthew. Chloe closed her eyes for a moment and said a prayer of thanks. Then she opened them, smiled, and together with Matthew blew out the single candle on the cake. The flame went out, leaving only the light of her new dawn.